All right, good morning, everybody, and happy Wednesday. So, we're going to be working on doing some upgrades and trying to figure out a different technology platform so we can still get all of this stuff out every day with the morning podcast and do what we're going to be doing. And the cool thing is, we've got some people that are in the group that are going to be helping us figure that all out. So, hopefully, here in the next couple of days, we'll have some of that solution path sort of mapped out for you and for us. And the thing that I want to talk about today is let's go back over, sort of the week in review, because we're middle of the week, Wednesday, kind of over the hump, if you will. I think that's why they called it hump day. And on Monday, we talked about that emotional feeling when we're working on our financial stuff and maybe stuff isn't working. But we get excited and we want to jump in and we say, oh man, let's go. We're going to turn it around. And then we find out that we're not turning it around. We got turned around and we got confused. And then we go into Tuesday, we talked about, we get that feeling sometimes when we're facing our financial stuff, trying to figure it out. And then we think, what next? Not like there's some task, but like what next is going to go wrong, right? And then this time we thought, well, this time is going to be different, right? So we're going to turn it around, no. And this time is different, no, it's all the same. So today we're going to talk about the thing that comes into our head when we get this new idea. And the first thing that we ask, or the first thing that we think is, how's it work, right? And how's it work is another one of those little signs. It's not that we're curious about how it works per se. It's more about that statement, that thing that we're always saying when we say, I don't know, right? And we get this auto response and this autopilot, sort of like auto ship, auto pay, right? So much of our life is set up and wired in auto pay, auto response. And somebody will say something to you and then all of a sudden it's just like you have this auto response. And it's sort of like the plane, putting a plane on autopilot, and you're just kind of going. You ever feel like your life is on autopilot and just like, what's going on, right? And so going back to a little bit about when we were talking about John and Mrs. John, Deborah, and their problem, when we sat down and finally got a chance to meet with them, and I think I told you and shared this with you, it was like they were going in completely opposite directions. Not that that's good or bad, it's just they didn't even realize it. And so when we laid this all out, and then they finally figured out that what they were saying and what they meant were two different things, and they weren't being congruent to the things that they really desired. And, you get into these little spats, arguments, whatever. Well, why'd you spend money at Nordstrom's, and why'd you do this, and why'd you buy that, and why'd you blah, blah, blah. It's never about that stuff, right? It's always about the other stuff. And the other stuff is the stuff that we're not resolving, the stuff that we're not working on. And it's not that we're working on it. We think to ourselves, I don't know. And it's not that we don't know. Maybe we don't ask. Maybe we need more time. So what we're going to do this morning is give you another hack and show you a different way to look at this financial gig and figure out how it works, because it's going to work a little bit different for everybody, okay? So let's dig in. Every so often we come into a situation and we feel like we really want to do something, but then we feel like, well, I don't really know. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how it works. I don't know who to talk to. I don't know who to call. And then all of a sudden we just start throwing fish hooks in the water, trying to catch something that's going to work. And again, that's a sign. That's a sign of the wheel, right? Remember the wheel, the hamster on the wheel? And we don't want to be the dead hamster, but boy, sometimes it feels like just a lot of motion, but there's no activity. We're not going anywhere. And sometimes we're even going back. And there's no worse feeling than to get up every day knowing that, you got shit you got to solve, you got stuff you got to work on. And this financial thing is just like, which way am I going? And so the way that I think that we have really, put something together here that will give you a different way to look at it is just taking experiences that we've all gone through and that we've worked with clients and really helping them see a different way to look at stuff. So let's do this. Let's take a situation where you're wherever you're at financially, but we go back and we ask different questions, right? We start asking, and I think we did that with the financial aspects questions, you know, who are you? How do you choose to live? And what do you value financially, right? And then we are talking about the personality assessment. We're going to have that ready here pretty soon, and it's going to look totally cool. And I'll do a little short video, threw some stuff up there in the group last night. Go in there and play with those things, because those, when we get into March, those are going to be very important in how those work. Then we talked about the time value assessment. How do we value time, right? And then the money value assessment. How do we value money? And then we talked a little bit about core and our core strength and some of the experiences that we have. What I'm doing is I'm sort of encapsulating how this program is set up to work, and it's set up to work however you want it to work. And the way that I look at it is, if things aren't working financially, or even if they're working and you want to do it to the next level, you want to ramp it up and amp it up, then there's something here that you can use and figure out how to take that next step. We can't accept, it's like in our practice, you know, the answer, there's one answer that is prohibited at any time in our business. And that answer is, I don't know. You can say a lot of stuff, but you cannot respond, I don't know, because we do know. And if we don't know, we know how to ask. We know how to ask for more help, for more time, but we cannot say, I don't know. We already know how to do a lot of stuff, but we're just struggling with it, maybe trying to figure it out. And then you have the dynamic, let's say a spouse, and the spouse has one idea in mind. You have another idea in mind, and we're not connecting, right? And when we're not connecting, things are breaking down. The communication breaks down, the money breaks down, and then we throw our arms up and we just go in silent mode, right? That's another auto response, silent mode. You ever have somebody give you the silent treatment? That sucks, right? And so we don't want to be in those situations, but these are little signs that things aren't working. Doesn't mean they're wrong, just means that it ain't working. And we've got to do something different if we want to get a different outcome. Stop shooting for goals and results. That was one of the mistakes I made, is I just set these goals. And you know, it's kind of like setting a New Year's resolution, right? I'm going to give you a business model that I think is just terrible business model. Every New Year, make this resolution. I'm going to join the gym. I'm going to go buy $400 worth of this and that. And I'm going to go and I'm going to work out. And I'm going to get toned. I'm going to get buffed, blah, 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 blah. And about February 13th, right before Candy Day on Valentine's, or right after, we're not going to the gym, right? And the way that the gyms were set up is that their business model depended upon what we call breakage. In other words, they depended on 87% of the people paying for the membership never showing up. What a terrible business model. And how many times do we put shit on auto pay? How many times do we do auto ship, auto this, and then we forget, or we don't handle it, or we don't deal with it, right? And then all of a sudden we got this money leaking out over here. We're not getting the thing that we thought over here. We're not using it. It comes in the box. We open the box. We put it in the cabinet. We never touch it again, right? So much of this network effect of our social structure has got us thinking about auto ship and auto pay. And all these companies are set up, designed, not all of them, but a good part of them, right, are set up to take advantage of that and put you on an auto ship, an auto pay, because they know it's auto response. You're going to get some happy juice in your brain. You're going to feel good thinking that this time you're going to turn it around. This time it'll be different, blah, blah, blah. And the next thing you know, 14, 15, 18, 26 months later, you've been paying all and you've never used it, right? That sucks. So the reason that that happens is it's the same pattern, right? It's just showing up in a different way. What we've got to do is start figuring out where these patterns are working and where they're not working. And where they're not working, we got to do something to replace the pattern, right? And so that's a lot of what this whole program is about. It's not that you're good or bad because you're on some auto response. We all do that, right? But I'm talking about being connected, being engaged, really understanding. And so when we do the personality money assessment, it's going to give us some measure. It's going to tell us how we relate with money. It doesn't mean that it's good or bad. It just means that's how we relate. And if our spouse is doing it, that's how they relate. And then how do we relate together? Because we got to figure this shit out and make some of this stuff start working, right? All right, so the way that I look at how to frame this, and this is kind of a cool little hack, is just take a day between now and say a week from now and just go through, maybe make a list, maybe go through your bank statement, your credit card statement, whatever. Just go through and look at how many things you're on auto pay, how much shit you got going on auto ship, right? I'm not saying that it's good or bad, that you should or shouldn't. I'm just saying, are you aware? Do you really understand? Do you know that your gas and light bill is on auto pay and you haven't looked at the detail of that bill in months? You know, I mean, when I looked at the last time I looked at it and I found 3 mistakes and had to have them called and fix the mistake, what if I hadn't done that, right? And so we get disconnected. We're not in the engaged part, and it's on auto ship. It's one less thing I have to think about. And that just sucks, to set up our financial life in a way that we don't have to think about it. And that's what all these companies, not all, a lot of these companies depend on us doing that. And so I would never want to have a business model that depended on me selling something and somebody not showing up to exercise and work out. And that's breakage is what's building our company. I mean, what a way to build a company. Geez. Well, they're dying now. All those gyms that had that business model are not going to be around much longer. Trust me. Peloton and all those things are going to be replacing that. So what we've got to do is figure out how much of our day-to-day, week-to-week gig that we're doing in our life is set up on auto ship and auto pay. And I'm going to tell you another little part about my story. And again, we all have a story. But, you know, when this shit was going on for me years and years back in the day, and I had that 4 year period where just nothing worked, right? I'm going to tell you how I had set my life up financially. This sucks. I mean, when you get this good at doing this kind of shit, you really got to understand you got a freaking problem, dude. You have got to stop. And what it was I would, you know, I'd have all these bills, and I got good at managing bill collectors, right? Calling me here, calling me there, sending me this, doing that, blah, blah, blah. So I'd have this list, and then this month it would be these bill collectors, I'm going to send the check, right? This is when we actually sent checks. I'm going to send the check, but I'm going to forget to sign it, right? So now I got a bunch of checks out, forgot to sign it, and then the next month they go, oh, you forgot to sign. Oh, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. Oh, let me get that out to you right now today. So I got another month of grace, right? Then a couple of months go by, and then I need more grace, right? And so then I forget to write the amount in, right? Oh, you call me back, and now I got to send the check again, so I get another. And I had set my life up in such a screwed up way because I was between commissions, right? And I got really good at managing not paying bills. And I got really good at managing paying them late and paying late fees. And it just wasn't congruent, right? And it's just crazy how you get into these patterns and they're flipped upside down, and you're working on the wrong thing that's going in the wrong, turning it around. No, I got turned around, you know, and it wasn't working. And so when you figure this shit out and you start understanding that what we say and what we mean sometimes are not congruent, and what we do isn't lining up, that's what these tools are designed to do, to just figure out if we're lined up. And the biggest thing that gets us in the biggest part of just disconnecting is auto ship, auto pay. How much shit do we have on auto pay? I'm just going to challenge it. Are you ready for a challenge? I know you're all in it to win it. Are you ready for a challenge? I'm just going to challenge it. Sit down with your spouse if you're married or have a significant other, whatever, and go through it. Just go through it and figure out how much do you have on auto pay, right? Total it all up. And then ask yourself a question. When was the last time you actually looked at the bill or the product or used it, right? And ever questioned that it was correct or right? Because people are counting on us not asking questions, right? And that's how a lot of these business models are set up. Shit's changing. We're in a new world. We're networked. We're wired. We're amped and ramped, and we're not going to put up with crap like that anymore. And we're going to take back control of our life financially, right? So I'm going to challenge you to step up, suit up, show up, and do that. Get into it and figure it out. It's not good or bad, but you should know if you've got a shitload of cash going out every month that's on auto pay, might be a good idea to kind of put a monitor on that, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. And until you look, you're never going to know. And then you run out of money before you run out of month. And then you got to figure out, well, I got to move money here to cover the auto pay. And then they hit you with the late. And it's just like, geez, it's like, man, it's every time I dig a shovel of dirt, somebody's putting 3 more in the freaking hole. And then we feel like we're getting buried, right? Because we are. Geez. All right. So when you understand you have a trigger and you understand that you have an auto response or an auto behavior or an auto pay or an auto ship, and how much of that is just we're not engaged, shit starts turning around because you start paying attention. You start looking at stuff. You start listening. You start watching, and you start seeing stuff move, and you start asking different questions. That's a breakthrough. And when you do that, you're on the way, because this shit's starting to turn around, and you're getting in it to win it. And that's how that works. That's a cool hack, but it's got to start with step 1, and you got to figure out how much you got going out on auto ship, on auto pay. And let's figure that out, because I'm going to show you another hack to turn that around. This is your money, right? This is your financial life. So this is not a game. This is like real shit. So we should be in it every day. But a lot of times we don't want to deal with it, right? Because we got all this crap in our back of our brain. And it's not that it's crap, it's just our approach and our perspective. Maybe we need a different perspective. So what I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm going to give you another part of the hack, and then Friday I'm going to pull all this shit together and watch for stuff that I'm going to be putting up in some worksheets and some really cool stuff. We're starting to get some more stuff out there for you. And at some point, we're going to pull this all together by the time we get into 1st of March. And you're going to see something that really is going to be cool. It's going to give you the power you already have. It's going to ignite that core strength that you've got. And you're going to be able to finally decide that this time maybe is different because you're doing shit different, right? And when we do something different, we're probably going to get a different outcome. And that's kind of how it works. Auto pay, auto ship, man, sucks. Business models that are set up on that, you're making them rich and you're not getting shit, right? Most of the time. Try calling their customer service too. Man, that even sucks worse. Don't get me off on the customer service, because there's no service in customer service. But I digress. Have an awesome day. Check out the stuff we got up there last night. Check out the stuff we're doing today and tomorrow. I will see everybody tomorrow. And if you need something, reach out and say something. I'm here to help. My team's here to help.